Welcome in, everybody, to Grind Time, powered by Full Time Fantasy in the FFWC. I'm your host, Billy Muzio. With me tonight is the owner, Scott Atkins. We are back for Red vs. Blue number 3, and we're about to kick this thing off and get into the draft room. Hold tight, everybody.
Tonight is the return of Red vs. Blue Radio with your host and fearless leader, Scott Atkins, at Scott Fantasy on Twitter. Red vs. Blue is a proud partner of the new Full-Time Podcast Network, now sponsored by Sports Illustrated. Guests can be part of the live chat we call The Crew, and also join the show by calling 646-668-8147. Red vs. Blue, where sports, fantasy, and life collides. Politically correct? No chance. Fair and balanced? Absolutely. Get ready. Red vs. Blue is back in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Red vs. Blue Friday Night Football, wherever you may be. Thanks for making us part of your night. I'm Scott Atkins, team legacy in the world of high-stakes fantasy football, and joined for the third time this year as a part of a joint venture with Grind Time, Billy Muzio. Billy, the draft is underway, my man. Good to see you on this Friday night.
Good to see you as well. I'll get the draft room pulled up now. McCaffrey actually went 101 tonight. That's abnormal. Taylor to the 102, which is where he goes if McCaffrey or Jefferson go 101. And then we have the big three, or now I should say big four, because Diggs is usually in the mix there as well. Kupp, Jefferson, Chase, and Diggs. And then my boy, DeAndre Swift, continues to climb and climb and climb and climb. He's now the second time I've seen him be selected at the 107.
Yeah, I really wanted to see a draft with us landing DeAndre Swift in the FSGA League. And it's a 14-teamer, and we had pick 13. We didn't really have any chance at him. He is going to be exciting to watch. But you're right. He's one of those early risers that we've seen. His ADP continues to rise. DeAndre Swift advanced ADP from 8 to 18 now. 8 to 18 coming into this draft was his draft window at RB7, pick 13.
Ahead of my boy Eckler. Ahead of Eckler.
Was the draft spot, and now he's ahead of Eckler. So, It's anybody's guess if he can stay healthy, but it is exciting to see. I'm going to run down everybody. Shout out to everybody in the crew, the chat room, some of the best minds in the world of high stakes fantasy football joining us in the chat. And we also have the league. I want to introduce the league. This is at PlayFFWC.com, the Fantasy Football World Championships. This is the third Red versus Blue online draft. This has always been the last chance to watch the high-stakes drafters draft live on a public broadcast and just sort of refine your strategy heading into the August drafts, Billy. Now, we may have another one or a couple more with Grind Time, but traditionally this is it. This is the close to the end of July, and then August, everybody sort of tightens up and seals up, and that's it. You have this last month to sort of do it on your own.
Yeah, I mean, now, like you said, it used to be the last month. Now you have me here, and I'm going to be live streaming drafts all year. We got Grind Time. We got a couple more Grind Time episodes for the Player Profiler Championship. I'll probably squeeze in a couple World Championship live drafts as well with my partner Dave Hubbard. And I'm sure you're going to continue to see more live drafts as we progress throughout the year. We're also going to be starting a segment this year, which is going to be a fun segment called Meet the Players. And I already have a couple players lined up. I have to get them on the schedule, though. And we're going to start to meet the FFWC players, learn why they like playing over here, how long they've been playing, strategies, the whole shebang. It'll be a great way for community to build here at the FFWC.
Yeah, you really can't get reliable ADP anymore except for the real money drafts. Like I just pulled up CBS average draft position, and it's all over the place. It's like a mixed hodgepodge of dynasty and rookie, and it's just a mess. Jonathan Taylor 1, Jamison Williams 2, Eckler 3, Josh Allen 4. It's like they don't know what they're doing with their ADP. So I want to find out what the real money drafters are doing, and that's the ADP that you can count on when you show up for your local league. It never fails that when you show up for your draft, there's people that are going to show up and they're not prepared on draft day. They think they're going to get that value, then it's not there, and then panic sets in because your whole draft strategy is out the window, and you get on tilt, and then you're chasing positions. It's a mess. So Let me run down the 12 drafters because I want to really spend this first half hour on diving into how these first 12 drafters start their draft. And then we're going to, because the first 4 rounds are so important. So let's take a look at the league this year. No, the number 1 spot is Mr. Wick, Terry Reams. No hidden names this year. Number 2, Square Hammer, Ashraf Ibrahim. Number 3, Team Snyder, Raymond Snyder. Number 4, Monkeypox. That's Terry Tardugno and Sean Medlin. Number 5 is BSOL, Bright Side of Life, Frank Shinnick. I'm assuming that's what it means. Number 6 is Cole Sheen, the newcomer, Jack Cole Sheen, been totally dominating in all these drafts. Jumping in. Number 7, Snake, Glenn Carant. Number 8, Black Lab, Daryl Hodges. Number 9, Daily Double, Jerry Bryant. Number 10, Grape Apes, Gary Allen. Number 11, Team Henry. Hello, Henry. That is William Meyer. No surprises. And number 12, Mankind Nation, Duke Viveros, one of the top players in the world. So that's the lineup. Let's talk about this first round. Billy, what do you see?
You know, a couple surprises. I mentioned them earlier. McCaffrey going 101 was the biggest surprise. I mean, we see it from time to time. It's just probably, you know, bottom 10% of outcomes that we see. Taylor, the pretty much undisputable 101 this year. Some players may say McCaffrey has a higher upside, but 90+% of drafts you see Taylor go 101. Swift ahead of Eckler was the big one we called out earlier as well. My other boy Lambs climbing to 110 here as well. And then we see Dalvin Cook fall to 2-2 behind Henry, Najee, and Lasagna Lenny, who I've been saying lately. So Dalvin Cook to the 2-2 is out of the first round, which is also abnormal. So players going out, getting their guys, just saying, you know what, FADP, I'm going to get my guy. I'm here to play. And we're in red versus blue. I'm going to make a bold statement. And then there it is.
Yeah, it's really tough. Just speaking from the end of the draft, you do see this green draft board formed with Henry, Harris, Fournette, and Dalvin Cook. And look, I get it. You're at the end of the first round. You don't want to be chasing other positions. You want to, you look at the wide receivers that are there, and you're like, man, I better get my running backs because if I don't, they're going to be gone by the end of that third round. And maybe I just don't like them and I want that stud anchor. But now the question becomes who's going to be there. And that's when we pull up the handy ADP tool in the draft room at the FFWC. These tools are available until the end of this month. The ADP board, the win rate, the ADP list, and the new stacks tool, which we'll talk about later. But if we pull up the ADP board and I check it out here, block out picked players. Yeah, so you can see that the running backs that you're going to get, if they didn't go running back in those first, that at the end of that first and second turn, their RB1 is James Conner, Cam Akers, Alvin Kamara, maybe a Zeke Elliott if you want to count on that. But a lot of people have been burned on that in the past. So it's like, okay, I get it. When you could also instead go with wide receivers like Brandon Cooks and Cortland Sutton and DK Metcalf, guys that can produce and be studs. So there's a different strategy for everybody. Typically in the FFWC, because you start 3 wide receivers, we see a lot more wide receivers go in this format. That's just a no-brainer, especially with 2 flex. And so we do see that 3 teams have started out of 12. 3 teams went wide receiver. Billy, I know that's a strategy that is fond to your heart, and you've taken it one step further, and you've done 4 or 5 wide receivers in a row.
Yeah, volume drafting, you can get creative. So you can build it any way you want, and you don't want to draft in the same routine, right? If you're doing 50 of these or 100 of these or whatever it is that you decided to draft, even if you're doing 3 of these, it really doesn't matter the quantity you're doing, but you don't want them to all look the same. So whether you're doing 3, 25, 50, 100, you want them to look as different as possible to better your chances at the overall. And that means taking chances. That means starting different builds. That means taking players ahead of ADP or, getting the discount at ADP. Either way, you want them to be unique. So if you started last draft running back, you may want to start this draft wide receiver. So I am a firm believer in being creative. I'm a firm believer in being unique and going outside the box and making sure that you're doing drafts differently. And so for those of you who are tuned in right now, we just released our Stack Finder tool. And the Stack Finder tool is pretty freaking awesome. I mean, I have to say so myself, but you can type in a player's name. So for instance, you can type in Lamb and Debo and see how many of those players, how many leagues have that start. As Scott's buying time for me here in between the next conversation, I'll pull it up and we can have a team up after the first 3 picks and we can see how unique that build is.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and it's definitely something that people are going to fall in love with as they're drafting to try to get those unique builds, especially in the World Championship and Online Championship in August, when it's more about trying to separate yourself from the pack with something that's unique. That it's a new tool, and I think people are going to love it. It is interesting that when we look in this second and third round turn, when you're at the front of this draft, it's interesting that some of these teams are still passing on some running backs that some people still consider to be rather unique and could be dominant. Nick Chubb and Javonte Williams are two names that are available right here at the beginning of this third round, and nobody seems to want them. Now, Nick Chubb seems to be stuck in a RBBC. But Javonte Williams, again, Melvin Gordon did re-sign there. People were saying that he had top 5 upside. There he goes, right there to the DeAndre Swift owner, lands Javonte Williams. Billy, we've talked about this before. Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, splits and combination there. Obviously, if anybody were to have 100% of the workload, that running back is a top 5, top 10 pick for sure. But in that offense, there's two backs at least that are going to split that workload, and so it's pulling Javonte Williams down quite a bit.
Yeah, we saw him, his ADP was just out of control in the beginning of the season when Melvin Gordon's location was unknown, and I cautioned people just to wait until Melvin Gordon resigns, wait until free agency is kind of, resolved and we have a better understanding of this backfield, because it's going to be somebody. It's not going to be nobody. And Javonte Williams' ADP will continue to fall after that. I mean, we saw him go 103, 104 in some drafts prior to Gordon re-signing, and now here he is in round 3. So if you took that advice and you waited, congratulations. Now you're facing teams who have him 2 rounds earlier, and you have 2 players ahead of them. But I mean, it was never going to be the scenario with Denver only running 1 running back. They haven't ran 1 running back since the Terrell Davis days, right? It's been a long time since the bell cow back per se in Denver. So last year we saw a 50-50 split from Williams. Saw with Melvin Gordon. We don't expect that this year, but 60-40 is realistic. Third round, probably a better spot for Williams. That's where I'm comfortable pulling the trigger. I don't really like to see. I wouldn't feel comfortable in round 2, but to each their own. Some people are shooting for that upside, and they know that probably second half of the season he's going to be receiving the bulk of the carries. Yeah,
and it's interesting. This is the latest draft of the last 10 drafts in the Player Profiler Championship. That Nick Chubb is still there. 35 was his low for any draft. 35, and he's still there. 19 was his high.
Guess who got him at 35?
Oh, was that you? Yeah.
Yeah, he fell to me pretty late that draft. I thought it was 4-2, honestly, is what I thought it was. I'm going to have to pull that board up now.
Yeah, why would he fall this far? I mean, when we've seen what he can do, I mean, it's just been the fact that I guess the points per reception leagues here, you want to get those points. They're nice points to have, and he's not the guy to really catch those balls. They don't use him in that offense in that way. Although this is going to be a new offense, we don't know what's going to go on with the quarterback. That obviously brings question marks to all the positions on the Cleveland Browns, especially if you're thinking that Watson's going to miss substantial time. 20 receptions is just not going to cut it in a PPR league.
Yeah. Interesting. So I just pulled up the board. I had him at 4-2 was the latest. So pick 38. That's exactly where he just went here to Team Henry. So that ties the latest that he has gone. I got Alvin Kamara on the way back in that league at 5'11". That was the latest Kamara's ever gone as well. News from Drew Davenport, who joined us earlier this week, is saying that he believes the Alvin Kamara case is going to be pushed into 2023. They're not even seeing him until August now to take plea statements. I'm not an attorney, so I may have said that wrong. But we have more than likely the suspension being pushed into 2023. And you'd expect today, back to Nick Chubb, you would expect after he lifted. Did you see that workout video today? That
no.
bar. The
No.
bar was bending like over his neck. That's how much weight he had on this thing. I thought it was going to be, the AJ Dillon effect with the leg picture, that we're going to see Chubb start shooting up draft boards based on this squat video. I shit you not. There was like 7 or 8 plates on each side of this bar, and the bar is bent over his shoulders. Like it's like where my hands are. He's holding onto the bar right here because it's bent over his back. That's how much weight was on it. And he goes down. You think he's just maxing out. He's gonna do 1 rep. No, he goes down for a second and gets back up. Dude's a freaking animal. It was unbelievable.
Marquise Brown off the board. His ADP is 41, and he goes a little bit earlier in this draft. They wanted to make sure to snag him and get him, and he goes at 310, pick 34 in this draft. I mean, look, it's just not even anywhere in the same ballpark when you're drafting these real money leagues that require these wide receivers. The other leagues just don't value wide receivers to the extent that we do. If I go to pull up ESPN's ADP, Marquise Brown his ADP is pick 58. Pick 58 at wide receiver 21. So wide receiver 22 here is pick 41. Think about that. 41 to 58. There's 17 more players, different positions going, even though they're valued at wide receiver 21, 22, really close. There's 17 other players that go in an ESPN draft because people are I mean, they're new. They're taking quarterback and they're taking tight ends and they're taking everything they can and a lot more running backs because of the formats and experience. So we're just finishing up with the 4th round here, and that's where I want to start and look at everybody here. So starting with Mr. Wick, he starts off the draft. We said it before. Christian McCaffrey with the 1 pick, followed by DJ Moore and Jalen Waddle. Did not want a running back here. Turned down Javonte Williams when he was sitting there, and he said, you know what? I want my wide receivers to be solid. He goes DJ Moore and Jalen Waddle, follows by Devontae Smith. So he has 3 wide and a running back out of the 1 hole. How did he do?
I like it. I do. I like that anchor running back build. I like DJ Moore, especially with Baker possibly starting there. I have Baker slated to start over Darnold. I know you have different opinions there. I'm not crazy about DJ Moore ahead of Pittman though, or even Allen or maybe Higgins. Just a preference difference of players there. But again, he's going for a Carolina stack, so I understand the thought process as well. He then gets another high PPR back with Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, who's going to now be drawing the cornerback 2 in matchups now compared to the 1 which he was facing last year, and then comes back around and gets Breece Hall, who is another volume running back. I like the build so far. I really do.
Yeah, and look, if you want your guy, you go get your guy. Devonta Smith is obviously his guy. He's wide receiver 37 in our format at an ADP of pick 66. He takes him at wide receiver 28 at ADP of or at a draft slot of 48. So it's a much earlier pick than usual. But look, it's a young guy and it's an exciting offense. It's going to be a much improved offense in Philadelphia. Good score for Mr. Wick, Terry Ream. Square Hammer, Ash Ibrahim starts off with Jonathan Taylor, Keenan Allen, Travis Kelsey, first tight end off the board at 3-2, and finishes up with Jerry Jeudy at the end of the 4th round. The tight end early in a draft is a nice strategy when it's Travis Kelsey. His ADP is pick 15. And he just stole him at the end or at the beginning of the 3rd round here. So what do you think of that start? Jonathan Taylor, Keenan Allen, Travis Kelsey, Jerry Jeudy.
I want to talk about it, but also pull up the stack finder. So can you read me the names again?
Taylor.
Okay, Taylor.
Allen and Kelsey.
Taylor. Okay, did I misspell Taylor?
No, you had it right. He's there.
Oh, he's right there. I just missed him. Okay, and then Allen.
Yep. That happens a lot. Well, only once, actually.
That's the first one that's happened, actually, right there.
Yeah, it's only happened one time.
Kelsey. So it's the first stack so far we've seen. Wow. I don't know if it's working properly. Usually it shows all the other.
It's the only time. It's the only time that that with those 3 players that Kelsey has not been paired with Taylor at all.
Correct. Yeah. So there it is. So we can even just let's take out Allen. Boom. Kelsey and Taylor have never been paired. There it is right there. So it's the first pairing of Kelsey and Taylor altogether.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Pretty cool. Again, that's the stack finder and how that works. that becomes more valuable as the season moves on and we start to accumulate more drafts. You start to see unique builds there. But again, taking Travis Kelsey there over a running back or a wide receiver makes sense when you have, him projected for a lot of that volume that I don't know if he can get a lot more volume than he's had in the past. I mean, even with Tyreek Hill out, I mean, he's already one of Pat Mahomes' most favored targets, right? So it's not like he's going to get a lot more work, but
I could see him getting more third down looks, more red zone looks. I mean, we've talked about this time and time again. There's the most vacated targets in the league here for Kansas City. And the fact that they have a lot of unfamiliar faces, who is Patrick Mahomes going to turn to in these key situations? Red zone looks, third down looks. It's probably going to be the one he's most familiar with, which is Travis Kelsey. So I would not be surprised to actually see Travis Kelsey see possibly a career high in targets, a career high in yardage, just because there's a lot of unfamiliar faces in this offense, and he's going to look to him early and often. Now, he's also reaching that age cliff, or that we're getting old now for a tight end, I should say towards the tail end of the ages, and we don't know how that's going to affect him here in 2022. But I would still expect him to be heavily used in this offense.
Our projections had him put in pretty much exactly where he's been for a while. Again, given the age circumstances that I think are important to watch as a tight end like Kelsey enters his 30s, 32, 33 age. We have him at 96 catches for 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's 270 points. For contrast, a comparison, that puts him at like wide receiver 10 on a normal season, 270 points. And that puts him at like running back 5. So there's a lot to like about a season like that for Travis Kelsey at 92, 1,210. And look, he has 4 seasons with 92 receptions or more.
Make it 5.
3 seasons with 1,200 yards or more, and he has 3 seasons with 9 touchdowns or more. So, look, it's not something uncommon for him to put up a season like that, and you're just locking it in, and you don't have to worry about tight end for the rest of the way. I mean, it would be very hard for me to take Waddle with McCaffrey there on the one hole with Kelsey still sitting there. So, honestly, let's go back to that draft board when you have a chance. Going back at the end of the second round, when I know that Keenan Allen and DJ Moore are there, I guess I do want Keenan Allen, but there's a chance that he falls to you with all those receivers there. But I guess Keenan Allen is a cut above those guys, so it makes sense that he went Allen. And then when I'm Mr. Wick, I'm thinking, okay, I want to get my wide receivers, and maybe he has somebody lined up. But Travis Kelsey would be a very hard pass for me at 3-1 or that 2-3 turn with him sitting there.
Yeah, I'm not even an early tight end guy, but at pick 3-2, I think I'm pulling the trigger. 2-11, I've seen him go. 2-10, I've seen him go. But anything in that third round, I think just to be unique at that point, you have to select him. So hats off to Squarehammer. I don't think it would have fit, though, the McCaffrey build quite as much, right? He would have come out with just one wide receiver. He would have had his one running back, probably would have seen a good run at the position like we just did, and he would have been probably forced to take a wide receiver there, double tap on the 4-12 and the 5-1, and now he's behind the 8 ball at running back as well. So I think it fit the Taylor team better where he was at, and I think it's going the way it's going to flow. I think it worked for both teams.
By the way, shouts out to the player profiler, Roto Underworld, tremendous partners for this online championship that we've enjoyed here at the Fantasy Football World Championships. They've included a prize for every league winner, in addition to all the other prizes that we do, in addition to the chance at the $50,000, in addition to the chance at a seat at the World Championship next year. Which everybody should choose, by the way. Would you rather have $1,300 in league prizes in cash? Would you rather have $1,300 or a seat worth $1,800 at the World Championship? It's like a no-brainer, right? You take the seat at the World Championship.
$500.
Yeah, of course. But they've also added a membership package to their tremendous website at Roto Underworld, Player Profiler. So it's a great site. And it's valued over $115, $120, something like that.
$135, big.
Oh wow, yeah, pricey, but no, it's worth it. It's worth every penny, and they're a great partner. And I encourage you all to check them out. And we're excited to get those integrations in our draft room in the coming coming months and years. We have a guest coming on 9:30. Jack's coming on at 9:45. Ash is coming on at 10 o'clock. Glenn Lowy, the fantasy football world champion from 2013, is going to join us. And at 10:15, your friend and mine, David Hubbard, will come on and join the show. So we've got a lined up show. Let's start with the third pick here. Hulk Smash. Hulk Smash is Team Snyder, Raymond Snyder. He starts with Cooper Kupp, my favorite player in the draft, not named Jonathan Taylor. If I have the 2 pick, I'm taking Cooper Kupp. Joe Mixon, Mike Williams, and Darnell Mooney. So I'm pretty sure you're going to love this draft because it has Mooney on it. But Kupp, Mixon, Mike Williams, and Mooney. What do you think?
I like the first 4 picks. I hate the Josh Jacobs pick. I'm just not a Josh Jacobs fan.
You're not reviewing the 5th. Just first 4.
Okay. First 4. I'm going to block it out. It's gone. It's gone. It's not here. Yep. Kupp, Mixon, Mike Williams, Mooney. Love it. It's sexy as hell. I love that draft.
Yeah. It is. It'll look even better if he pairs Mike Williams with Herbie. I mean, that's when I'm like, ooh. And now again, you have to pay for Herbie instead of waiting, because when we were at the FSGA draft, you were able to snag Russell Wilson in a 14-teamer as like the last guy to take a quarterback. So I get why you don't want to take a quarterback, because you get guys like Russell Wilson, but you won't get a guy like Justin Herbie with maybe a huge year. Look, it's the locks for me. I just, and it's like Trevor Lawrence and him. They both have them. It's kind of nice.
This is also the latest we've seen Josh Allen now. We've picked prior low was 63, now it's 68. So, pushing quarterback.
Oh, there it is.
There's Herbie right there. But pick 68 is now the lowest we've seen Josh Allen go. FFWC is known to push quarterback as well. So you can get a lot of good value later.
Let's do the stack tool with Kupp, Mike Williams, and Herbie.
All right, let's pull these off here. So Kupp.
Yep.
Mike Will. Oh, I can't do last name, so Williams.
Yeah, start with last names.
Yep. We think, where's Mike?
The third one.
Thank you. Third one, you said? Boom. Thank you. You're fast at that. Okay, what's the next one? So that's the first Mike Williams and Kupp team too. Okay. What's the next
Herbie.
player?
Herbert.
Herbert. Okay. So first Mike Williams, Kupp, Herbert team.
Take Kupp out, maybe.
Okay. First Williams and Herbert team? That doesn't
I don't know. Something might be up.
Yeah, normally it's showing the rest of the teams down here.
It looks like there might be a bug.
Yeah, Mike might be doing updates. I'm going to message him.
It's a new tool. That is something that I want to look at. And maybe it's because we're accessing it outside of the draft itself, and we're trying to pull it off outside as a spectator watching the draft. But that is something that I like to see. You like to pair up that wide receiver with that quarterback, because if Herbie's going to have a big year, there's a good chance that Mike Williams has a big year. And this is the year that I think Mike Williams can surpass Keenan Allen, even healthy.
Yeah. The only fear with Mike Williams is he just, plays with disregard to his body and just comes down on his head and his ass in the same play. And injury is always a concern with Mike Williams, but we finally saw the potential last year. Is what we kind of expected from him out of the gate, quite frankly. I think that Lombardi system for Mike Williams just really served him well. I expect him to take another step forward. I do expect him and Keenan Allen to be closer in fantasy points, probably a little bit closer in targets than the previous years, and Mike Williams to continue to take that step forward. So very excited for this offense. Very excited for this division as well. This division in general is going to be electric to watch on a week-to-week basis. So excited to see what the Chargers do.
Yeah, I think his chance of injury that I've seen in 2022 is 93%. Projected missed games 2.9.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think we saw injuries in 2021, right? 2020, we saw a lot of them. We got the shoulder AC joint, we got the thigh and hamstring strain, we got the back lower lumbar sprain, which he's had several times actually. Back injuries. It's tough. It's tough to be a receiver in the NFL. You got to activate the warrior spirit in you.
Well, we have Cole Sheen in the
let's bring him in
the back. I'm going to bring him in. Jack, welcome to the show, buddy. Liking your draft yet again. You just continue to draft teams that I really like. So why don't you walk us through? You start with Diggs, Aaron Jones. You got Deontay Johnson, Metcalf, Akers, Olave, Hopkins. Has the draft gone as planned for you so far? Did you make any adjustments based on maybe snipes? Walk us through it.
So, I like when I know my draft position ahead of time, just to do my pre-draft kind of, this is my plan as to how I think things can reasonably go. And I haven't hit a single pick that I thought I would make this evening. They've all been different. I thought I'd probably end up going like Chase Higgins, and instead I'm going Diggs Jones. Akers certainly wasn't the plan. And my kind of guiding principle this year has been like the whole team structure over individual value. But Akers is somebody that I'm personally high on, and seeing him fall to the 54th pick overall, that was just enough. So I couldn't let that go any further.
Akers, our ADP is 39, RB 16, and his high-low was 33.45. So people are normally taking end of the third round to the end of the fourth round, and you just see him slip right there. If he had just dropped right before you, who do you take at wide receiver there?
If he would have gone before, I guess it would have been. I would have taken London.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, it's good to get you in action here early on, because last time it was like near the end of the draft, so we're going to get to see this eighth pick here from you. And again, the eighth pick in the FFWC is an important one because it's somebody that you're actually going to be counting on every single week if you build your lineup in that way. Now, you don't have to. You can take a bench player. But for the most part, people are trying to get to look at their lineup that they're going to fit. And there's 9 key positions here besides kicker and D we won't talk about. But there's 9 key positions that are going to be in your lineup every single week. You're going to have to look at them, and you're going to have to stare at them. And you'd like to be able to put somebody in that you can count on week to week.
I just want to say that I messed up on the stack finder. I pulled it up from the World Championship. That's why it's only showing. Just throwing that out there.
No drafts yet, except for the slow draft.
Yeah, we'll try that again in a minute. That's user error, or what I like to call an ID 10T error, right?
Gotcha. Yeah, look, Higgins would have been the pick there, I think, with Diggs to pair with, but he sniped you with 1 pick. Did you ever consider Pittman with that pick, or did you just say, you know what, I need if Higgins isn't there, I need to get that RB?
I just like seeing Aaron Jones fall that far. I think in the running backs going in that area, I can make a case for him being RB1 overall. It'd be a stretch case, but it's still within his range of outcomes. So.
All right. Well, you've got 5 wide receivers. You have 2 running backs. Talk us through the process here as you round this pick here.
You're on deck.
Well, that would have been nice. I would have liked to go Edmonds there. Let's see what just got picked.
I'll buy time for you as you're picking. So Aaron Jones splits with Davante Adams have been just wonderful. So in the games that he has seen with Davante Adams out, which is 8 games, the games he's been in with Davante Adams, 59 games. He's averaged 14.8 fantasy points. With Davante Adams out, he's averaged 22.89 fantasy points. Receptions per game with Davante Adams was 2.49. Without Davante Adams was 4.5. Reception touchdowns goes from 0.14 to 0.5. Reception yards is the biggie. 17.83 with Davante Adams on the field. Without Davante Adams on the field, 48.5 reception yards. Rushing touchdowns also go up because we all know Davante Adams is a red zone monster. So rushing touchdowns for Aaron Jones go from 0.59 to 0.75. And then rushing yards remain pretty neutral. 62 with Adams in, 60.38 with him out. So splits will say Aaron Jones is going to have a monster year with Davante Adams no longer in Green Bay.
Yeah. And he goes Melvin Gordon here, Billy. Melvin Gordon, RB 18 or thereabouts last year, right there with Javonte Williams. This could be a guy that you just plug in as a flex or flex 2 because you know he's going to get some production. You know he's going to get some of that goal line work. You know he's going to get some catches, and he can still take them to the house. You don't, and then, because you don't have Hopkins for the first part of this season. And it's nice to see that you're getting Hopkins. We always used to have a rule of thumb, right? When we talked about suspensions in general, we always said you add a round to every week to their ADP. So if Hopkins were let's say he were a first round pick, if he's going to miss 6 games, he'd be a 7th round pick. That was always our rule of thumb, and in our head, how many games, how many rounds, and it typically works out that way. And you get Hopkins in round 7, and that's somebody that he's going to miss some time, but when he comes back in that second half of the season, you're hoping for the reinvigorated Hopkins of old, not the Hopkins that we saw in the second half of last season that was just sort of buying time and sort of making his way through the second half of that season. It was really odd. What did you make of that, Jack? The numbers that he sort of put up that were not really awe-inspiring of Hopkins.
I think the offense really relies on timing. So both, being gone with injury, having different players inside and out, I think I can attribute the comeback time to just getting back in sync. I still think, with a full offseason to rest, he's a worthwhile upside. And, you mentioned Melvin Gordon. For me, I think that pick, I think he's priced as if he's going to get 40 to 45% of the workload. So, if that happens and Javonte takes over a little bit more of the 50-50, I think the price still assumes that. But obviously any injury to Javonte or just something closer to a 50-50, and I think there's value on that pick.
Yeah, I love the Melvin Gordon ADP this year. I think he's still going to be in a pretty significant role, and he's one injury away from being just a top 5-6 back on a week-to-week basis. And we all know the running back position in general has the most injuries at the position. So I've been finding myself targeting Melvin Gordon. I think it fits this build quite well as well because we expect Melvin Gordon's usage probably at the tail end of the season to not be as heavy maybe in the beginning because they're going to want to continue to get Javonte Williams more involved. So I think that balances with Hopkins. I also like what you did with Chris Olave and Hopkins because let's just assume that Michael Thomas is there week 1. I mean, I know he's on the PUP right now, but if he is there, this gives you a chance where Olave is not going to be taking on that number 1 DB, right? He's taking on the number 2 DB. So he may have some better weeks ahead of him versus facing the number 1 coverage, where that gives you a chance also to get some points before Hopkins gets back. And then as the season progresses, they're both going to be in the field, both going to be expanding in their roles, and you're going to be capitalizing on that both those points. So I like what you did in terms of balance there as well. And I think that Melvin Gordon fits the team very, very well.
You got it. And then Deontay Johnson was your 3rd round pick. You talked about Diggs. We talked about Aaron Jones. Deontay Johnson, you got at wide receiver 18. And he's got a new quarterback in town, obviously, this year in Mitch Trubisky, and another new quarterback in town in Kenny Pickett. Does that scare you at all, not knowing what that quarterback relationship might be, and is Mitch Trubisky looking over his shoulder already after the draft? I mean, Deontay Johnson, you have other players there that you could have went with, but you went with the individual player upside rather than the potential team chemistry issues that may exist.
Yeah, I at least from my read of it, it sounds like Trubisky has a pretty good hold on the position. I think. From fantasy purposes, it might have been ugly, but he had some really some good startable games and seasons. I think he certainly unlocks more options for the entire offense than Roethlisberger did. So I think you can only go up, in my opinion, in terms of performance.
Fair enough, and you're on deck, so we'll let you look at the strategy there and what's available. Billy, as I look at the average draft board. Players available. If he wanted to go tight end, he's got Hawkinson, Goddard. Those aren't really too inspiring. If he wanted to go wide receiver, he's got Sky Moore, which is interesting, but he already has Olave. He's got some other players.
So far, the answer is none of the above.
It's ugly. It's almost quarterback. It's almost quarterback time. If you're not going to take Sky Moore, it's almost like, okay, I'll take Kyler and I'll take Lamar because the rest of the options I mean, you're looking
There
at
it is,
Jacoby
Lamar.
Myers,
Yeah.
Kenny Golladay.
This is where we're seeing these quarterbacks go right now, just because it's
All right,
kind of
nice.
it's kind of that dead zone for the positional players, and this is where we've seen
It's a dead zone.
quarterback runs happen lately at the FFWC. So we've seen, I think a couple drafts ago, it was like 6 straight quarterbacks in this area, just because they're the best players on the board.
Yeah, it is dead. So I like it. You take Lamar Jackson there. I mean, look, there's some upside running backs that are unknowns. If Rachaad White would have fallen there, would that have been a Rachaad White move?
For me, that was Lamar, and I'm going to take a moment to get on my soapbox here because I think the FFWC collectively disrespects Lamar Jackson. And, we could go through all the metrics because they're there, the greatest quarterback season of all time. But that's not as fun. So I like to go narrative for this particular year. It's a contract year. He has no agent. He is representing himself and choosing not even to negotiate. He put on 15 pounds of muscle. To me, I keep watching what's the Last Dance over and over on Netflix, and it sounds to me just like Michael Jordan putting on 15 pounds with the Detroit Pistons to put him over the hump. They don't trade for another wide receiver. They're fine with what they got. They double down on line and tight ends. It sounds like old running Lamar for me. So I will take Lamar in the 9th every single time.
And they say that Kyler's deal is basically the floor for Lamar now that that's sort of been set. He's not in a rush. They're not in a rush. And I saw this play out during his draft, and I said to myself, this is not smart. This is not smart for Lamar to be. He needs to be thinking about football and not contracted at all. So I hope that doesn't rear its ugly head at all during this preseason. I don't think it will. But he's got to, look, everybody wants to talk about that big year, and that was sort of his show-off showcase year. He did it in college too. And when he has an offensive line, he can definitely do it, being a Louisville fan, I know. But that season, to me, was not sustainable, right, because of injury concern to a franchise player quarterback. You don't want to have that kind of season where he's running the ball that many times. It just doesn't work in football traditionally, unless you're going to have a very short career. Well, who's going to sign a contract to a megastar contract in a very short career if you play like it? So they've got some real problems to figure out there with how much they want him to run. He can run, obviously. He looks at a play, and it's almost like in drafting, you look at a running back versus wide receiver, you like this wide receiver more, but you need the running back in your lineup. Otherwise, you're going to get nothing, right? Right, Billy? Zero RB guy. It's one of those things. It's a trade-off.
So I just want to go back and say that I typed in. So here we go. A lot more to see now. That
there we go.
So I typed in his team here, Jack's team. He's the first Jones, Diggs, and Johnson stack so far in all the drafts at the Player Profiler Championship. So
now take Jones out. Take Jones out and put Lamar in.
Take Jones out and put Lamar in. Jackson. I always put the first name. You'd think that helping design it, I would figure this thing out. So looks like he's the only one here as well. So there it is.
Yeah, that's that league. Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, that's the big upside play right there. I mean, you could even say that it's Metcalf has some upside too. Olave has that huge upside to really get right involved in the game. Jack, thanks so much for joining us. We're gonna move on to the next guest. We've got a stacked lineup, but good luck the rest of the way, man. It was fun to interact with you in these important picks.
Definitely. Have a good one, guys. Thanks,
Jack. Take care.
I wanted to get Jack on in action in some of the, because right when you're around that 7, 8, 9 turn, they're very important picks. They're not to be discounted at all because they are a big part of your weekly lineup every week at the FFWC with our 11-man starting lineup.
That's correct. Yeah, this is where leagues are won, right? This is like the 8 through round 12. I mean, this is where the Debos were going, as a Cooper Kupp was going late last year. I mean, this is where leagues are won. Everyone says if you miss your round 1, round 2 pick that you're going to lose your league. That's not always the scenario. If you hit on your late round picks like this, or I should say mid round picks, this is where the difference is. And of course, late round is equally as important, but there's a lot more at stakes here in these mid-round picks that are really going to make up for it. Well, we also have Abram in the back. Let's bring him on.
Yep. he's getting ready to pick too, so we'll give him a minute to pop on and get his bearings. He's got a pick. He for some reason he keeps landing the 2 pick with the random generator, and so he's like, "Damn it! I keep getting the same guys, but I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. I'll keep taking the guys." What's up, Ash? How you doing, bud?
What's up, guys?
I bet you were excited to see JT fall to you at 2 tonight.
Oh, that was beautiful. I actually had a plan in place that I was gonna try to get away with tonight if Taylor didn't drop.
Yeah. Hey, you're not hating on me now, are you?
No. Listen, I never hate on you. 2 is fine. It's just when you pick it three times in a row, this team's very different than my normal builds for sure.
That's crazy. We're gonna take a look at his build to start off with, Billy. So let's do his first 4 while he's thinking about what he's gonna do on this turn. Jonathan Taylor, Keenan Allen, Travis Kelsey, Jerry Jeudy. We already talked about that. He comes on with Amari Cooper.
I want to punch these in because I messed this up last time. So we have Jonathan Taylor. We have Allen, because this is the exact one we did earlier. And then we have Kelsey. See, only one. Yeah. And if you remove Allen, only one. There it is.
The only team in the tournament with Jonathan Taylor and Travis Kelsey. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
I never go tight end early. I told you this the last week when we did this draft.
Yeah.
And I had to do it because when does Kelsey ever last till the 3rd round? So I
tonight.
Took him. I was really planning on fade RB2 scenario, but Kelsey there, definitely played into that. I really wanted to go wide receiver in the 6th round as well, but the running backs were flying off the board. I had to get a couple of running backs before they were all gone.
Yeah, and that's kind of what he did there, Billy. I know you'll be okay with that. Miles Sanders, Devin Singletary, guys that are going to catch the ball, guys that have tremendous burst and the ability to take it to the house. He comes back with another tight end after Travis Kelsey and Dalton Schultz. Now let's talk about this strategy because, again, for a team that has 3 wide receivers, Kelsey, Taylor, and a couple running backs, Dalton Schultz is a luxury pick for a lot of teams because now that's a flex position because Kelsey's your tight end. You're always starting him. So Schultz becomes a steady flex position that he can count on because he's looking at other players and he's like, I can't really count on a lot of these players to be there for me on every given week. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Tyler Lockett, these are all best ball guys. Michael Gallup won't even be ready. Garrett Wilson, who knows? Rashad White, who knows? Maybe needs an injury. He could have went quarterback here, but compared to all of the other options, Billy, how are you when somebody would just said, you know what, I believe Dalton Schultz is an every week guy?
I'm sorry, but I don't like the pick just because there's so much value late at the position, and I understand that Schultz has a lot of upside, especially in the red zone in this offense, and probably sees a lot of targets, but it's a 3 wide receiver start. Looks like we're going to be chasing the wide receiver position now from here on out in the draft, and 2 of your top 3 wide receivers have a week 9 bye, so you could pretty much chop that week up right now. But I probably would have taken somebody like Lockett there, maybe even a Garrett Wilson, just because you're going to need that extra wide receiver on a week-to-week basis, not just alone the flex position, but starting as well. So I feel like we're going to be catching up to the position now the rest of the draft. Probably would have liked to seen a later tight end, like Ertz here, in the 10th, even getting 2 rounds later would have been if you wanted to address the position. But I don't find the need to address the position. If I'm spending a top 3-4 pick in the FFWC at tight end, like Kelsey or Andrews or Pitts, I'm not addressing the position at all the rest of the draft. And if I am, it's very, very late.
But what if he has him projected for a big, big season? Ash, is he a 70 catch guy with 6 touchdowns, or is he a 90 catch guy with 10 touchdowns?
So I definitely think of him as much more target share this year than last year because they lost Amari Cooper and Gallup isn't going to be around. So I trust me, I wanted Kittle to drop to me, but of course Hulk sniped me.
Sniped you.
I had to go with the next guy on my board was Schultz. I thought Lockett might come back to me, but again got sniped again. But I went with the guy who I think is going to catch anywhere from 70 to 85 balls. That's kind of where I put him. He's going to have 8 to 10 touchdowns. And you know what? For a wide receiver 4, that would be, if I got that in a wide receiver 4 position, that would be great. So, yes, I normally do not build. Scott has seen a lot of my builds. I very rarely do this, but picking in the second spot again, I had to really change up my philosophy. I really wanted to go. Eckler, Allen, Williams. That was kind of my thought process. I might be able to get that build and kind of stack players, stack teams. But obviously, when Taylor dropped to me, I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll get Taylor and Pittman.
Yeah.
Stack, but that didn't work. So
nothing wrong with that.
You always got to be ready to
pivot
or zagging. I figured, let me do this. Let me give it a shot because it's a build nobody else is going to have.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad choice. I mean, you look at, it's just my personal preference, but you look at Schultz has had pretty good couple of years. I mean, 2020, 63 receptions, 2021, 78 receptions. So it's definitely within the realm of possibilities for him to see 80 receptions, 85 receptions as a tight end. Definitely within the realm of possibilities. 8 touchdowns last year, could probably see 8 to 10 this year. So, like I said, not my personal preference, but I understand why you went that way, not knocking it. But I do want to talk about Devin Singletary because I love Devin Singletary this year. A lot of people are scared off with Cook, but Singletary was coming on very hot at the end of last year. He was the running back 1 weeks 15 through 18, only behind Penny from weeks 14 through 18. Penny was ahead by a couple of fantasy points, but Singletary down the stretch and even into playoffs, let me read you kind of his fantasy output. So week 15, 16.6 fantasy points, running back number 7. Week 16, 18.8 fantasy points, running back number 10. Week 17, 23 fantasy points, running back 5. Week 18, 25.2 fantasy points, running back number 3. Then he gets 24.4 in playoffs and then 15.1 in playoffs. A lot could be said about this Buffalo Bills offense, and a lot of people are scared by the fact they added Cook. But I think, and I've said this on the Grind Time, I've said this on the Full-Time Fantasy podcast, and even with my time on the Dominator show, and I've said this, and I'm gonna say it again. Buffalo kind of telegraphed their play when they went out and signed J.D. McKissick temporarily for him to re-sign with Washington, and then they go out and draft Cook. I think it's obvious at this point that they want to use Cook in the same fashion they planned on utilizing J.D. McKissick, and Singletary easily has the 1-2 down workload and probably gets sprinkled in on passing down work because, let's face it, down the stretch, he was catching 5 balls, 6 balls, 3 balls, 4 balls every game. So very, very excited to see Singletary where his ADP is. I think that you were able to get a great running back 3 for this build, and it's going to pay off.
Yeah, I really like my running backs because, like I said, I was hoping that I would get 3 starters. I mean, Taylor being the beast, and then 2 more starters after that. And while Miles Sanders had a terrible year last year, you just got to figure touchdown regression. He's going to get more TDs. Hopefully he stays healthy. And then Singletary, I love the kid. I mean, yes, is he going to get 300 carries, 280 carries? No, he'll probably get 220 carries, catch 30 to 40 passes, maybe, in that ballpark range. So, I like that pick. I was very happy to see Singletary there for me. So I'm happy. And then to get Tom Brady later, I was picking between him and Wilson. I was thinking about stacking Wilson with Judy, but Tom Brady, too much value to pass up to get him where I got him. And I'm pretty happy with this team.
He reminds me of Darren Sproles when I watch him on the field. He's just that little guy. What is he, like 5'7"? I mean, 200 pounds. It's very, I mean, he's built, he's stocky, and he had touchdowns, I think, in all 6 of his last games last year. And he's always getting that 4.5 yards of carry. I mean, he's an all-purpose guy. And, he's a nice weapon. So it was interesting to see the James Cook. They need something because Zach Moss isn't going to be that guy. Right? They brought in Zach Moss, and he just, some players have it, some players don't. So that's the last we're going to see probably of Zach Moss. So it needs to be, you can't just do it alone.
Yeah, I mean, he sticks his nose in there blocking on passing downs. I mean, this is the thing about Cook. Obviously, he's going to get a lot of opportunity in the passing game. But if he doesn't block, then that might go by the wayside as well. I happen to like Cook, but I like Singletary more.
Yeah.
So I definitely was very happy he was there.
Yeah, I like it too. I mean, he as Billy astutely pointed out, top 5 running back of the last 6, 7, 8 weeks of the year. He just continued to do it if you include the playoff weeks. So it's good stuff, man. What are you looking to try to do the rest of the draft here? Are this high upside guys or guys that you can plug into the lineup? You have 5 wide receivers now with Watson. That's a wide receiver. It's a body right now. And you have 3 running backs. You have your 2 tight ends. You have your quarterback. So you're just going to load up on best player available the rest of the draft?
Yeah, I mean, obviously at this point you're looking for players that get some opportunities.
Are there any handcuffs?
You're on deck.
Well, I would have definitely liked to get Nyheim Hines, but obviously he was taken, so I would have liked to get him. Sanders, obviously that's always a possibility.
Maybe Hamler late?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to definitely, 20 spot draft, you can get an opportunity to fill in some of those spots. So I definitely want to get some.
He's
players.
on the clock.
I got my guy already.
You got Nyheim Hines queued up?
No, Hines went already.
Oh, he already went. Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah, 11th round.
So I'll take McKissick. In that offense, he'll definitely get some passes. He'll be the passing down back. So I got a guy who, and if God forbid something happens, Antonio Gibson, maybe he becomes that workhorse again like he was last year for a few games. But I mean, even with Gibson, he was getting a lot of work for Washington. Obviously Wentz is a little scary, but it's definitely somebody who can definitely get me some points.
Ash, congrats on the stack, my man. Taylor, Keenan Allen, Travis Kelsey. We'll be watching this team all year as we review the Red versus Blue drafts, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.
Have a great weekend, bud.
Take care, buddy.
Take care, Ash. Bye-bye.
Take care.
It's nice. It's summer. We're seeing all the guys. They're coming into the draft. I love it. I love seeing the guys and hearing them talk to strategy. Let's keep going with the 4 team. We haven't got to break down the 4 team yet. Monkeypox here. That's Terry Tardugno and Sean Medlin. Great guys. Always come to Vegas every year. Justin Jefferson, Michael Pittman, Cortland Sutton, Ezekiel Elliott. Those 4 picks and that build, I bet you're going to give it a good score.
Yeah, I love it. I love Zeke's ADP this year, going in round 4 and 5 in some drafts. And to top it off with those 3 receivers who Jefferson is my 101. Pittman I have inside my top 10. Sutton also I'm higher on the consensus. And Russell Wilson loves to throw the deep ball. And guess who happens to be his deep ball receiver? Cortland Sutton. So love the start here. Penny went a little higher than I expected him to go. I probably would have liked to see Akers there. I'm a huge Penny stan. But I think that if you want to go out and get your guy, that's fine. Rest of the draft I'm liking as well. Just some player differences towards the Pierce and Herbert picks. But overall, like the construction, like where he's going, looking a lot like my boards with no red or blue on it. So I like it. Just a couple player differences.
Yeah. We've got some chatter in the chat room. Who is the defending champion anyway? Seriously, anyone know? Da-dum-dum, Snickers. Wow, I had the under daily double. Blue Jays are up 27-3. Okay, you're talking baseball in the FFWC draft. Scott, please stop. Thank you in advance. Okay, I must be throwing out some names that they don't like. Roy says 48 more sleeps until the FFWC main event weekend in Vegas. Gosh, 48? Can you believe that? Holy crap, we're under 50.
Yeah, I love how he breaks down sleeps like I tell my kids.
It sleeps. Road Curtis, don't think falling running backs is an indictment against them. More so, players trying different configurations, stacks, etc. 100% agree with that. James Maloney, Gordon's on the decline. Yeah.
We have Glenn in the back, too. Let's get Glenn on.
Beautiful, now. Beautiful.
Glenn! Welcome, buddy.
Hey. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Hey, when you introduce Glenn, you have to include world champion 2020. Do we put the year? No, we won't even put the year. World champion Glenn Lowy, fantasy football world champion. What's up, buddy?
I kind of like that moniker. That'll work.
Good to see you, man. I wanted to get you on because you've won this thing in the past. You know what it takes to win this thing. You got to get lucky. You got to get hot at the right time. But you also not only to win the thing, just to churn out a positive ROI when you're playing league after league after league. You've played in this FFWC format a lot. We always talk about the importance of the receiver position. Are we talking about it too much? Because it seems like every week we got on here and we talk about, do you have enough wide receivers?
I don't think we're talking about it enough because, every contest has its feel and atmosphere and, focus. When it comes to the FFWC, it's definitely wide receivers with the dual flex and the 3 wide receivers that you have to start. You want to load up on them. They go really quick. You want to make it a priority in your early rounds and throughout the mid rounds as well. Get some depth there because before you know it, you'll be scratching the bottom. The other positions, including running backs, seem to last a little bit longer. So you can wait on them, especially quarterback, tight end. But when it comes to wide receiver, make sure you got your 4, 5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10. 8, 9, 10 sometimes, yeah.
Well, we sent you a link to the draft board. I'll let Billy take the next question, but we sent you a link to the draft board. And as we look at this draft board, nobody went true 0 RB here. There are a couple of teams that went 3 wide to start, and I'm always worried about those teams as far as, well, can they have a running back? And look, Billy's like 3, no big deal. 5, no big deal. But let's talk about like Grape Apes, for example. He starts off with Lamb, Samuel, and Brown, and takes Brown knowing that Chubb and ETN are both available when he takes Marquise Brown. But it pulls off because he still gets Travis Etienne. What do you think about that start there?
It's I'm not going to go into the players because at least not when we're talking about roster construction, because people have their favorites and they'll have their reasons why. But the 3 wide receiver start, I think this year can especially play out because there's some running backs in that running back dead zone that has been commonly called over the last few years that are a little bit more intriguing than they may be other years. And ETN is for myself one of those guys that seems to be going a little bit later than your typical high ceiling guys, but can be a running back 1 easily next year if everything plays out like it certainly can. That's definitely in his range of outcomes. So I think this year it's not bad. I actually like the way he put together his team so far. He focused on running backs and wide receivers, which I think in the FFWC format is critical that you make that your main priority, those 2 positions. Somebody like Josh Allen, for instance, he looks so juicy there in the 6th round. Heading back, I mean, he's the quarterback 1, but look at the quarterbacks that are there in the 9th and 10th rounds. I mean,
exactly.
You get some amazing quarterbacks that fall forever in this format. So no matter how much of a value somebody like Josh Allen looks like, and it's hard because I'm not somebody who won't take a quarterback early, but this year especially, and especially in this format, I don't think I will be. So, and taking somebody, a high upside running back and say, listen, Antonio Gibson, Josh Allen's going to score you a lot more points. He's a lot more of a sure thing. But you don't take Gibson there. Who's the next running back available? What are you getting in the next round as far as running backs? And he needed his running back too. I kind of like the way he put this together. He's got 5 wide receivers. All of them I kind of like. He's got some upside running backs there. And then he's still got Burrow, in the 9th. And Kmet, a high upside tight end in the what is that, the 12th? I like the way he put together that team a lot for this format.
Yeah, Billy, can you use the stack tool to see if we have any Lamb, Debo squads? First of all, Lamb. There's Lamb.
There's Lamb, and we got Debo.
Samuel. You got to type in Samuel.
Gosh darn it! I do this every time. You think after the millionth time I'd learn?
Okay, there's a couple.
Okay, what's the 3rd pick?
And then the 3rd one was ETN. ETN.
Okay.
I mean, he has Marquise Brown, but I want to see if anybody was able to pair that with ETN. That's just him.
This draft. Yep.
Just him.
And we'll put
those are
Brown.
three exciting players.
So with
Very much
Marquise
so.
Brown in there, again, the only one as well. He's actually the only one with those with 3 of those 4 as well.
That's cool. That's cool to see that. I like that. 3 of those. He's the only one with 3 of those 4. Wow.
Let alone 4 of the 4.
And
he
all
unique at
tremendous
3.
upside guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so someone mentioned it in the chat. I was going to say it, but Daniel beat me to it. You mentioned the 3 wide receiver start. He didn't need to take a running back there because the 11 and 12 hole both started off 2 running backs. So he knew he had to take a receiver here because they're probably going to take a receiver here. I mean, lo and behold, the guy double tap tight end, which was unusual. But from a drafter standpoint, I agree with this. You take the receiver here and take whichever running back falls back to you on the turn.
Mr. Obvious, Daniel Nielsen, thank you for pointing that out to us because that is 100% correct. You have to be able to play that 11 and 12 turn, right, Glenn? When you're in that 9 and 10 spot, it gives you that opportunity to kind of feel it. If you're not looking at that draft board before you make your pick, that's why 30 seconds sometimes isn't enough for me.
Absolutely. So
I want to look at that 11 and 12, or I want to look at that 1 and 2, and I want to say, okay, I want to play it against them.
Listen, this time I'm counting down 10 players. So, two turn for 2 teams, that's easy.
Where is the sweet spot for you with how many seconds do you need to keep a draft fun without it being too like, oh my God, everybody's milking all the clock, but you also don't want to have too little time to make the right call with this much money, on the line.
You know what? But by the time September comes around, I need 3 seconds. You've done so many drafts.
Auto pick.
It's pretty much you can pretty much auto pick. I walk when we get to the live drafts. I'm walking around between picks.
Wouldn't that be cool? We just stair step the clock down as the season gets here.
Absolutely. This time of year, it's a little bit different. I'm giving a lot more thought. I'm still figuring things out. So figuring out roster construction, figuring out draft flow, figuring out even the players I like. So, I appreciate a little bit more time this time of year, but, after I've done a few drafts, a few dozen drafts, it pretty much is embedded in your mind and how you like to build. And you can pretty much do it from, with 5-10 seconds.
So what I heard from that is that when he's in Vegas and we're drafting the World Championship, he gets a 10-second timer is what I just heard.
Yeah. We're gonna make that happen. Look, this format is I'm seeing it every draft, Glenn. Tight end is not. I mean, quarterback is not the only position that's falling. It's tight end. You get a couple of tight ends, and then nobody's really interested the rest of the way. I don't know if it's a combination of the quarterback for Kittle, and the injury concerns for Schultz, or the targets that are gone for Darren Waller. With Adams coming to town, the quarterback questions for Kyle Pitts. It seems like even the elite tight end, skill sets, they have question marks with the rest of their team. And so it seems like tight end is like falling right into that camp of quarterback, where if you're not taking Kelsey or Andrews, you're letting them fall and you're taking a late tight end also like quarterback.
I think part of it is similar to quarterback, which is a very deep position and why you can wait on it, right? Quarterback 12, how many points less is he going to score than quarterback 5? And it's similar in tight end this year. After the first couple, 2, 3, who have tremendous upside and tremendous ceiling, despite the position.
Right.
You get to tight end 4, 5, 6, and you start looking down the board, tight end 11, 12, 13, they have intriguing upside this year, unlike other years where, it's a barren wasteland. So you might be more comfortable with, a Komet or a Ertz or a Goddard or a Knox than you would have been for the tight end 9, 10, 11 in previous years. And, you can pass on, somebody like Waller in the 6th round and focus on those premium positions that will not be there in the 10th, 11th, and 12th, like wide receiver and running back.
Yeah. Glenn, last question I have for you. Your build for the World Championship, does that still stick with you at all? Do you remember that team at all? And
yeah, of course.
And is there anybody that's still alive on that team? I mean, still playing in the NFL? It's been a while.
No.
But the
I don't
build
think
in
so.
general, does that build start to stick with you too? Like how you did it?
Well, I think the build is a typical build that I would do. I focused on running back and wide receiver early, and I got some tremendous players to anchor that team. I think part of what made that team though special, it was the year Manning grew for 55, I think it was, and it was before that Thursday night game. So I got him in the 4th and 5th round or whatever it was, 6th round, whatever I got him in.
Yeah.
And, he was just tremendous, a tremendous player to have on your team. And half the contest was grabbing him in the 1st round because they drafted after the Thursday game.
Yeah. Well, look, we used to have a rule of thumb that if Manning fell to the 5th, you take him. That was back in the day, right? And now we're seeing quarterbacks like, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow fall into the 9th round. It's like it's not the same as it used to be for the quarterback position because it's so deep. Do you ever think that because of all of this depth that we see with Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers, I mean, your MVP is taking quarterback 16 now, and Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and all these quarterbacks, Matt Stafford down here in the 12th round. Do you ever think we'll ever get to a point where Superflex, you could just pull the cord and just rip it off and say, you know what, it's time to allow quarterbacks more importance, or is that not the way to solve it?
Superflex is a fun contest for sure, and it definitely increases the value of the most important position in football, the quarterback position. But I don't know if it'll ever take hold. You never know. PPR, 15 years ago, everybody played, touchdowns,
right.
and yardage. PPR made headways and then became the standard. But I think fantasy football is so big right now, and so many people play it, and so many people are comfortable with the one quarterback, the single quarterback. I don't know if Superflex will ever become the standard. Maybe it becomes a little bit more popular, but superseding single quarterback, I don't think that'll ever happen.
Glenn, I got a couple questions for you. We're early in the season. We're only in July. We're not even into August yet. When we're this early in your drafting, what is your take on drafting 2 quarterbacks? What's your take on drafting kickers? What's your take on drafting defenses? We're not required to draft those positions at FFWC. Are you drafting them, or do you take more stabs?
Well, you have to draft a quarterback, right? So as far as quarterback, taking 2, I don't mind it. Again, I'm going to push quarterback. So what I sometimes find myself doing is taking 2 upside guys. So if one breaks, I'm still good, and I didn't use heavy draft capital. A guy I've been grabbing everywhere, and some people are giving me a hard time about it. But to me, it's a cheap stab at a quarterback one is Desean Watson. He doesn't play. It seems now that he is going to play. How many games? Who knows? But I'm grabbing him in the 16th, 17th round. Where would he be going? If it wasn't for what this cloud over his head, and he'd be in the top 3-4 quarterbacks taken probably, right? So it's a way to get a star for the playoffs. I would have to keep him on my roster, clogging up a spot for a few weeks, but if I can manage that and still get in the playoffs, then it gives me a great advantage.
Yeah.
So, obviously if I'm taking him, I'm taking 2 quarterbacks. But even when I don't have him, I'll grab a Stafford, and then I'll grab an upside guy like Fields, and maybe he breaks. And, I prefer doing that than going for an Allen or a Herbert, because I just value those rounds for wide receiver and running back too much.
Yeah. It's interesting. The Josh Allens, the Pat Mahomes, the Joe Burrows, they were putting up 35 burgers and 40 burgers in the playoff weeks for some teams. And it just seems like those guys can say, we're going to look back at this time and saying, wow, we're letting Pat Mahomes last to the 8th round because he doesn't have Tyreek Hill. It's like, this dude can put up 40 points for you on any given week and just end your night because you got, because it's just going to work out that way.
Yeah, but where was Burrow going last year?
Exactly.
You know, that's the thing. There's always 2-3 quarterbacks. Brady always goes later than he should. There's always those kind of quarterbacks that you can get late. Hurts, another guy you got pretty late last year. And you're able to ride them, and then they explode in the playoffs. The year Lamar Jackson won the MVP and won a lot of fantasy dollars for people. People were getting him in the teens round. So if you can identify that quarterback this year, a guy like Trey Lance, people seem to be on. But there's cheaper guys also. That
look at Wilson in the 12th in this draft. I mean.
Look
another
at Winston
example.
Now. Yep. He threw for 5,000 yards and 30-something touchdowns a couple of years ago, right? I just read today or yesterday, whenever it was, that they're going to have a more wide open, wide receiver friendly offense. He's going in what? Is he even being drafted in every single draft? I don't know. So there's a guy that could explode and give you a Tom Brady type season with a few more interceptions likely. But, and you could get him maybe in free agency or in the 19th, 20th round. That's why the quarterback position is a great position to push if you can identify those kind of players.
And nobody has talked about my boy Zach Wilson yet. I mean, come on.
I love Zach Wilson. He's winning it all this year.
The mom hunters.
Our Jets are going all the way, brother.
Hey, at least we're in the news for some reason, man. I love it. Well, thank you for coming on. It was great to pick your brain. Cheers to you, buddy. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you in the draft room.
Thanks, Glenn.
I look forward to it as well. See you guys soon.
Later, champ.
Be cool, man.
Glenn's one of the best ambassadors we could have for the World Championships.
We got my boy Hubbard in the back right now.
All right, put him on. Bring him on. Bring him in.
There's the man.
I'm still waiting for him I'm still waiting for him to get that gold ring, that gold belt. That's what he needs to be able to put over that shoulder, Triple H style.
Yeah, we do need a gold belt.
How you doing, man? David Hubbard.
What's going on, Scott? How you doing?
It's great to see you. Good to see you, bud.
Good to see you, man.
We've got a draft. We brought you on here. Look, we're talking about a lot of topics right now. We are going to break down some teams with you. But one of the things I want to talk about, sometimes we get so carried away with lineup construction. And when you look at some of the best teams and you go back and look at their drafts, sometimes you're like, well, they didn't have a really amazing draft. They just had the two guys that you really needed to have that blew up this year. And the rest was just sort of, they made do with the rest. What is your thought about that as far as just making sure you get those couple of high upside guys versus getting too carried away and in the weeds about structure of the team?
There's a lot of truth to that. I've looked at some teams where they won, and I said, how the hell did they win? And I look, and you're right. They have three players that went off when it counted, and I hated their draft, but they won all the money. So it happens. If you get the three players that, say you get a couple of them in the early rounds, and then you get one late guy that like you had to have to win, doesn't really matter. Like when Nelson and I won the FFPC, our 5th round pick didn't even play the entire year. Never played a down of football. So, well, it just depends
Cooper Kupp last year made up for a lot of teams that had terrible builds, and Jamar Chase did the same thing. If you put those two together, your squad is looking like they're loaded for bear regardless. I mean, you have to do a lot to mess it up.
Yeah, there were some drafts where Cooper Kupp went cheap too early in the drafting season, and Chase there for a period when they talked about dropping balls and stuff, dropped a full round in a lot of drafts. So yeah, there was some periods of time. That's one thing about drafting and why I like to draft like throughout the drafting season, because there's periods of time where you can get pocket values, news breaks, and people overreact to the news. I mean, look at Alvin Kamara, probably not even going to be suspended this year, and people letting him go in the 4th, 5th round of drafts. And now, as soon as that becomes confirmed news, he'll go back to the 1st round of drafts. So it's new. You got to be able to take advantage of the news pockets, and be right on those players.
Billy, if you're looking at ADP at this point in the draft, there's just not a lot there on ADP that's inspiring. So, I mean, we talk about these last couple of rounds. Is there anything here that are you fighting to the very end? Or are you just what are you doing with these last couple of picks?
Oh, I love the last round of drafts. I'm always coming up with some. I mean, I'll text Billy and say, I got a guy for us in the 19th, 20th round. Who is it?
Yeah, this could be the
I
James Robinson round, right? Like,
I actually love the 17th through the 20th round of drafts. I always look for somebody that might be under the radar. Who might.
This
be
is
on
the Elijah
club.
Mitchell rounds. These are the rounds
Yep.
that you take those stabs on players that you've done your research on, that you look at tape, that you looked at the metrics, you've bounced off other sharp players like Dave, and you say, do you like this guy as well, right? And you get that confirmation from your peers, and you start drafting this guy left and right, and then next thing you know, he's Elijah Mitchell, right? So I love these rounds too. I mean, I said that this rounds are won through the middle rounds as well. If you remember, I also said it's equally as important late, because this is where you're just looking for those guys to outproduce ADP. And whether the 19th round pick or an 18th round pick is now producing at a 7th or 8th round value, that's what wins these leagues.
Yeah. Where did Alvin Kamara go in this particular draft?
He went in the 3-9.
3-9. Okay.
yeah, he's recovered quite a bit after that show.
The latest he's gone over here at the FFWC was to my team at the 5-11.
Yeah. Yep. That's crazy. Never. Yeah. I haven't seen that. I don't think I've seen that anywhere any other time.
Yeah, we talk about a lot of people want to talk about Green Bay with Devontae Adams being gone. Aaron Rodgers, still has an offense to run there, and you've sort of left him with a couple of prospects, Sammy Watkins and Alan Lazard, not even a Marquez Valdez-Scantling anymore. So what do you think? I mean, there are a couple of wide receivers like that you could take a shot on, right? Like, I mean,
I'm still waiting for Will Fuller to sign with Green Bay. So we'll see. I think
my philosophy on that is he's been waiting for Desean Watson news. Like, he hasn't signed because he wants to see what his boy's going to do. If his boy's suspended, if his boy's suspended the entire season, he's not going to sign with Cleveland. But if he's suspended 6 to 8 games, he probably signs with Cleveland.
There might be some truth to that.
I was looking for Romeo Doubs. Did he get drafted?
That's Billy's boy.
Yep, he got drafted. Yeah, that's another player there that everybody's projection to be Watson, but Romeo Doubs made a lot of plays in college too. So when you said Elijah Mitchell, that's where my mind immediately went, was Romeo Doubs. Is there another guy that maybe drafted to? I'll never forget, Dave, and you remember this. We were in Vegas and drafting. It was FFWC, or it was WCOF year 2, and Anquan Bolden was like the third rookie wide receiver drafted that year for Arizona. Remember they took 3?
Yep.
And he blew up, right? Week 1. And I happened to draft him with my last pick. The 20th round, I drafted Anquan Bolden, and he had an amazing rookie season and carried me
for like 200 and something yards in his first game.
And he was my wide receiver 4 all season long. He was in my top 4. I started 4 wide every year. That was like the first year that the light bulb went on and said, oh, you don't have to start 3 running backs. You can start 4 wide.
Sure. In FFWC, you can start more than that. So
5.
Yeah, the last rounds are very important in any format, but in FFWC, I'd say they're real important.
Yeah. So there are a couple of guys here late. If you use that average draft board, Billy, can you pull that up from where you're at?
From the
ADP board?
Oh, the board. No, I don't have access to it if I'm not in the draft. But if you send me the link, I can share it.
Okay.
Send it in a private chat, and I can pull it up. But if I'm not in the room, I don't have access to any of the tools.
Yeah, I'll do that. Dave, let's take a look at some of these picks that might perturb a guy like you that wants to make sure that's always good for TV. Let's look at Mankind Nation, Duke Viveros from the 12 hole.
Duke drafts everywhere.
Great drafter, great person.
Yeah, Duke.
Najee Harris, Leonard Fournette, Mark Andrews, and Kyle Pitts. Doesn't take his first wide receiver till round 5. Is that something that can work? I mean, he has to hit on all those players, and then it can work.
It can work if you identify the right wide receivers. There's a lot of wide receivers that even in this format that could outproduce in rounds, but he needs to be right on those guys. He has to have wide receivers when you have to start 3 and then you have to start 2 in the flex. I don't love it because I don't ever want to start. I don't care who the tight ends are. I don't want to start a tight end in the flex all year in this format, but besides that, yeah, it can definitely work if he's right on. Say Sky Moore is the number 1 receiver in Kansas City and far and away the best receiver there.
I love the fact that when you look at Duke's drafts, there is a definite boom or bust element to these guys. Kadarius Toney, Alan Lazard, Sky Moore paired with Pat Mahomes, Jahan Dotson. We know he's a great player. We just don't know if he's going to be more, Jalen Reagor or Justin Jefferson. We just don't know. Madison to back up if something happens to Dalvin Cook, and then Josh Palmer if something happens to one of those wide receivers. He's got guys that are huge upside here, and even Zamir White.
Probably, if you're going to draft like he's drafting this team from the 12 hole, that's probably what you need to be doing.
Yeah, swing.
You need guys that are going to outperform, so you got to draft guys that have a chance to outperform. And I would argue that all the guys he picked have a chance to outperform.
Well, and look, he drafts for the big prize in mind. He's trying to knock down the whole thing. He wants to win the league, but he's going for he's trying to win it all there. Let's look at the 11 hole. Derrick Henry, and this is Team Henry, by the way. That's fascinating. He gets Derrick Henry to fall to him. Comes back with Alvin Cook and passes on the wide receiver there. Another team that passes on wide receiver, but gets scary Terry McLaurin, and then he sees this value fall in his lap with Nick Chubb. I mean, which pick, if you're going to pick on any of those picks, which one are you going to pick on the most?
I probably Henry. I don't particularly love, and if he would have taken wide receiver in the first round, well, I don't know if there was.
Now wait a minute. Wait. You used to sing Derrick Henry's praises on Twitter.
It's a new year.
You were the first person to ever call him like King Henry on Twitter. Like it was you.
Aging running backs are not my forte. I pass on. I love King Henry. I loved him his whole career, and I still like the dude, but. He's not going to be on any.
You're not loyal. You're not loyal.
No, I'm not loyal.
You're not loyal.
I'm loyal to God, family, and country, not to football players.
Henry
Cook. No, I would say his structure is not good for this format. Montgomery, no need for Montgomery there.
Okay.
Michael Thomas is hurt. Robert Woods is hurt. Robbie Anderson. I mean, who knows what Robbie Anderson's going to do. Yeah, Laviska should not. I mean, he's going to have a hard time in this format, in my opinion, setting a lineup every week that's going to put up massive points. So, not the way I would build a team over
hoping here. For a little T-Law resurgence with Christian Kirk, Laviska maybe, Terry McLaurin. But look, Mike Thomas, Robert Woods, maybe you're saying I want one of those to pan out. I'm thinking that one of them will, but I don't know which one will, so I'm going to take them both.
Yeah. And Michael Thomas starting the year on the pup, and he's already been through all that for all this. There's something more to that. So I don't think he's ever going to be the Michael Thomas that he was, or even close to it. So nah.
And let's look at daily double from the 9 hole. Devontae Adams. Billy, why don't you run this team down for us?
Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Alvin Kamara, Gabe Davis, Elijah Moore, the top 5 picks.
That's more like my style of drafting. I like this team. Team has a lot of upside with a lot of players that I really like. So. I can't argue really with anything he did.
Yeah, comes back around, takes A.J. Dillon, Tony Pollard, Kenneth
Walker. 2 guys
Walker.
With massive upside if anything happens to the starter, and are going to be viable flex plays regardless if the starters never get hurt. Kenneth Walker, I'm not a huge fan of, but he has some talent.
Gets Rondale Moore in the 9th.
Yeah, the dude obviously drafted a lot in the FFWC format because, or maybe he hasn't, and maybe just good, but I like a lot of the things he did in this draft.
So, Dave, if you were in this draft, and I know we all say that we let the draft come to us, but what is a typical build for you? Are you starting 3 wide receivers? And I know that you get creative and build all different things, but what would be your go-to?
Oh, in this format, I'm going to favor the wide receiver. I mean, it's got to be a running back that falls that I really like somehow, I don't know, CMC falls to the 5 hole or something. But in the middle, I tend to favor the wide receiver because I think it gives you more outs in this format. So that's why I like what he did there. And look, he got Kamara to come to 3.9 if Kamara is not suspended and plays the whole year, which is probably now 80% favorite to happen. He has an edge on the whole league now because Kamara is probably going the first round or the end of the first round, beginning of the second round, as soon as there's news that he's no longer suspended. Because what's the difference between Alvin Kamara and Austin Eckler?
Yeah,
not a lot. I mean, I love Eckler, but not a lot in fantasy football terms. So
I want to finish up. I want to finish up with Team 4 here that we were talking about earlier: Jefferson, Pittman, Sutton, Zeke, Penny, Cook, Tolbert. Ding, 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 ding. Wide receiver 42 in this draft. His ADP is wide receiver 62.
Yep.
We're seeing a bump in Jalen Tolbert. And you're
he's one of the kids. He's one of the kids I liked on the film, and he's one of the kids that a guy I respect his film analysis of. Likes the kid a lot, and yeah, I mean I can't argue with it. He's a guy I would be willing to push up in some drafts. to have some shares of him.
That's a swing. That's a swing pick right there.
I like it. But then he followed it up with Jarvis Landry and Garrett Wilson. I like too, but yeah.
So you got to balance it. That's all about balance. You can't have all swing picks.
That's how you
I've seen that before.
Right there, boys. Take Jalen Turpin, followed up with Landry.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite of the teeter-totter.
Exactly. The dude's got a lot of balance to his life and game, I guess. So that's nice.
I think I would have rather. I like Tolbert, but I mean, it's 20 picks ahead of ADP. You probably could have got him on the way back, if not the round after. I mean, I probably would have preferred taking Hopkins there or Burks, even Claypool, right? A lot of the players ahead of Tolbert at this spot, in my opinion.
It was flashing. It was a big flashing red light here when I saw that. Let's look at BSOL Team 5.
Tolbert could actually he could outdo all those guys, but yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Jamar Chase, Barkley, A.J. Brown, Allen Robinson, and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I've drafted a lot with these guys. I don't even know who they are, but I've drafted a lot with them, and they do a good job in every draft I've been in. So, and I like a lot of what they did here. I don't particularly love all the running backs they took. They did take a home run with my guy Rachaad White, but yeah, they do a good job. I mean, you can't really argue with the team they put together. And whoever they are, they're sharp.
That's Frank Shinnick. He put together Alan Knox. Can you go to the stack tool?
Yep, I'm
stack tool with Josh Allen, Allen, and Knox. Yeah, you got to do last names. And I want to see once we have that. Okay, there's only 2 teams in the tournament that paired. Wow. I mean, what if Knox becomes his Gronk, right? I mean, okay, there's 2 teams in the tournament. Let's find a third player to pair with. Obviously, it's not going to be anybody. There's only 2 teams in the whole tournament.
That's pretty good. That's surprising, actually, but. Maybe not in this format because tight end, people don't value tight end as much and maybe not even looking for the hookup. But
let's back those out. Let's back both those out and do Chase and Barkley on the stack tool.
I really like the stack tool, though. I'm going to like this a lot when we start main events.
Yeah, and it's all free through the end of July.
This is fun.
Chase and who was the last one?
Barkley. I'm assuming.
What does it do? What do you do with this after July? There's like a membership fee or something to use it?
Yeah, part of the full-time fantasy member.
It's one of full-time's tools, yeah.
So there's 2 teams right now, including theirs right now, Chase and Barkley.
Okay, so there's only 2 teams with Chase and Barkley. That's fascinating because you would think that they have the opportunity to pair up quite a bit with,
Well, Barkley had a period of time where he was going cheap, but then
the third.
There was a period of time where he moved way up, and it's harder to get him.
Yeah, his range was in the beginning of drafts, like middle of round 3 I saw him go at the late round 3 at the latest I ever saw him go in. And then I've seen him go as early as like the 1/10. So you never know where he's going to fall. Players who love him in drafts will take him at the end of the 1-2 turn, or he'll slip to you again at that 2-3 turn still.
All right.
It's weird.
Let's go to the snake himself, DeAndre Swift.
My guy Snake's still around, huh?
Yeah, T. Higgins. Swift, Higgins, Javonte, Rashad Bateman, Russell Gage, Drake London, Treylon Burks. It looks like a Dave Hubbard team.
I like this team a lot.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good team. I like a lot of the stuff he did there. It's surprising. Over here in this format, I haven't drafted. I'm waiting until the main events, but I haven't drafted a lot in the format. Seems like he got a pretty good deal on Javonte because Javonte doesn't go there in other formats that I drafted.
That's the latest he's gone in the FFWC up until today.
Look at Snake snapping up all the value. Good job, brother.
You got out the value net. Russell Gage and Rashad Bateman. What do you think about those two? You like those two?
I love both those guys. I mean, Bateman is. If Bateman doesn't do it this year, I'll be shocked because he's got the opportunity to really out to shine. And Gage went to the ideal situation to play the slot with Tom Brady because I don't think Godwin's playing much this year. So yeah, I love what he did. Give Snake an A+ on this one.
I think my only knock with Snake's team is the 2 quarterbacks. We got Murray in round 9. No reason, in my opinion, to take Lance at 12. That's my only.
I'll be taking shots on. You know me. I'm not taking. I got.
That's
Murray.
my only complaint. Only complaint with this team.
He has a 12th round pick.
But still,
I would take somebody else that had upside.
exactly. You have Murray. You're not going to start Lance.
Not too much of a complaint then if it's just a 12th rounder. I mean, look, I like that's a good team. I just don't know if I can if I see Russell Gage with Brady as a guy that's going to get more work than a Elijah Moore or Christian Kirk, who I'm high on both those guys a lot. So it's going to be hard for me to pull the trigger. Because he feels rather pedestrian to me, even with Brady. I mean,
even over like Kadarius Toney, Christian Kirk, Juju. I probably wouldn't. I might not fire him over those guys either, but I do like him. I can see us. Are
we overvaluing opportunity and not just looking at talent?
Gage kind of showed that he was a player in Atlanta with Matt Ryan. He got hurt and then he didn't play. But the stretches that he played, he had some big games.
Not just that, but you look at the last 2 years. 2020, he threw the ball 610 times, 40 touchdowns. Last year, he threw the ball 719 times, 43 touchdowns. With that much opportunity as the wide receiver 2 in the beginning of the season, even if he's the wide receiver 3, look at what Antonio Brown did as the wide receiver 3 on this team. I'm not saying that Gage is Antonio Brown, but what I'm saying is there's plenty of room for the wide receiver 3 in this offense to shine.
And there's information that Brady like handpicked Gage. Like he requested that they go get grades. So yeah, I could see there he has a chance if he to do big things there.
I thought it was going to be Tyler Johnson, and now it just didn't. It never happened.
Tyler Johnson got his opportunity and shit the bed. So
Tyler Johnson. Tyler Johnson cost Dave and I $20,000. That guy can go kick rocks.
Yeah, he actually did. Yeah, he actually did.
He had opportunity and he didn't do it, and he didn't do anything. And he dropped a ball. He dropped a big ball in the big game against Green Bay.
Yep. Yeah. He really. Once you do that with Brady probably said, "This kid got his opportunity. He's got to go." He's now a punt returner.
Oh no! Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I take that back. He's the one that caught the ball on 4th down when the Bucs went for it to beat Green Bay the year that they had beat him in the playoffs.
Yeah. He made a play, but when he got an opportunity where everybody was hurting, it was him. They
threw it to him. He was the 4th option on the field, and they threw it to Tyler Johnson. Yeah, I just loved him at Minnesota. Let's keep going. Black Lab takes Eckler, Tyreek, Brandon Cooks, James Conner, Adam Thielen. We've seen all these names before. Cooks for years. Conner, Thielen, Waller, Edwards, Hilaire. There's not a lot of youth in that little bucket.
Nope. Yeah.
I didn't know how else to say it.
This is the AARP team.
Yeah. I just don't know if his receivers are good enough to win in this format.
Yeah.
Will be my.
Do you like the Nico Collins late? I feel like he's got some value, some picks. Like
Nico
Collins late, Jacoby Myers. None of these are sexy picks, but all could have roles, right? Yep. It's actually interesting to see that like this is the first year that Brandon Cooks has actually had any respect on his name. The dude's been in the league, it seems like a decade, and has consistently put up 1,000 yards. And finally, we're seeing him going around 3.
It's almost like Black Lab's strategy is like we saw here before. It's the guy. It's like the Ian Ritchie strategy. He's looking for 13 points a week, because if you take 13, 14 points a week times your 10 players or whatever you're starting, that gets you to 140, 150 points a week, and that'll get you into the playoffs. It might not get you to win your playoffs, but it'll get you in the playoffs.
It's not my drafting style.
They're not the 20, 25 point guys that you need to have that upside on any given week to make up for the guys that don't.
It's more floor play versus ceiling play.
Right.
Yeah, it's a middle of the pack kind of philosophy instead of a home run, either first or last.
All right, so we broke all the teams down. I think that's all of them. I don't think we missed any, did we?
No, I think we hit them all.
Okay,
at least at some point in the show.
It's time to pick our favorite team. We each pick one. Favorite team, Billy. I know you said you liked the Snake team.
I do like Snake's team. I was going to say Snake's team again. Outside round 12 picks, my only complaint with the team really. Love what he did overall in the draft. I also though it's very close, but I also really like Cole Schleen's team. I've loved what he's done every draft he's been on here.
I like the Diggs team the best.
That's the Cole Schleen. Yep.
The Diggs, Deontay Metcalf with Olave and Hopkins, Aaron Jones, Akers, Lamar, and Alberto.
Yep.
That's a pretty sick squad.
Yeah, Cole Schleen is a good drafter.
Yeah.
I
Who
think
is that?
That's Cole Schleen. He's new to FFWC, but he's been just drafting lights out.
That's very good.
I think I like. There's a lot to like for me about Brightside of like BSOL with Chase, Brown, Robinson, Amon-Ra, St. Brown.
I like his team too.
Saquon Barkley, Josh Allen. I mean, all that is nice. It's hard to get past Snake and Kelsey. We're right in the middle of the draft. Is that saying something about the middle of the draft? We kind of like those players that are available.
I think it's saying something about the drafters and they're finding a pocket of values and putting the team together, right? I think it's more about they're constructing their team good and picking players that have upside. I think.
I agree with Dave here. We look at our red versus blue too, and we picked Colesleen from the 12 hole. So I've now picked his team as a top 2 team from the last couple drafts, and he's drafted from now the 6 hole and the 12 hole. So it's a lot can be said about roster construction. Roster construction, in my opinion, is almost as important as player selection.
We didn't go back and break down the 1 hole, Mr. Wick, outside of the top 4, because he drafted Brees, Dobbins, Ayuk, Lockett, Hurts, and Ertz. If McCaffrey has that big a year, it's a pretty solid squad. But
yeah, just something about it. I just don't, and I like some of the players, but I don't like it as good as the other teams that we mentioned.
Brees could be good.
Oh, I'm a Brees homer. I'm a Brees homer big time.
That's good value, 5-1. Well, great. Thanks for coming on, Dave. We really appreciate it. Me and Billy are going to wrap this up, but it's good to see you. Can't wait to see you in the draft rooms.
Yeah, we're ready for the mains to start. Can't wait.
All right, man.
All right, Scott. Take it easy.
See you in Vegas.
All right. See you soon, buddy.
Oh yeah. Bye-bye.
Dave's one of the first guys that I met going out to Vegas, and he was always, one of the players that when you knew he was at the draft table, you knew you were in for a dogfight.
Yeah, our partnership started last year. FFWC alone, we had a 98% return together. It was phenomenal, right? And we look at a collective between all platforms, and we had over a 60% return collectively. So it was a great partnership for our first year. Excited to expand upon it. We're maxing out the FFWC World Championship this year. We have our 18 entries. I've maxed out the Superflex Bowl. I'm trying to pull him in with us to come draft the Superflex Bowl more. But it's a great partnership that him and I have started, and I'm excited for the years to come.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap it up. PlayFFWC.com. You can find Billy at FF Muzio on Twitter. You can find me at Scott Fantasy, and of course all the content at Full-Time Fantasy. We appreciate you. Like and subscribe on the podcast. We always forget to say that because I'm just not a YouTuber, but definitely like and subscribe. That helps the channel grow and helps new players find our platform that you can feast on. So, Billy, thanks for doing this as always. And next, we've got some grind time drafts coming up.
Yeah, next week. So next Friday, we got the grind time draft, also a Player Profiler Championship. And then I'm also going to be throwing together this weekend part 2 of the video showdown. So keep an eye out for that on Twitter. That is going to be with all the sites. We got Fantasy Pros, a 33rd team. We have Bob Harris from the Football Diehards. We have Matt Kelly from Player Profiler, along with several other.
Adam from Draft Sharks.
Yep. I mean, I can list all 12 of them, but I'm not going to. But there's some phenomenal players in that, both high stakes, both analysts. So a lot of great takes on why they chose the players. It's like a 1 to 2 minute clip of every single player. So it's 101, 102, 103 in that sequence, the entire draft, all 24 rounds of why they chose that player and what they like about him. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to Grind Time. Thanks, Scott, for hosting with me, and we'll see you back here next week, guys. Take care.
Nothing but time, use it to grind. They huff and they puff it, this bacon is mine. Stakes are all high, your stakes are so dry. I'm as rare as they come, put it all on the line. Losing very doubtful, cause I'm winning every outcome. I'm impressed by his guess, there's no reason to guess. Drafting like I won the lotto, but it's grind every day. Managing teams is just part of the game. Free agents, lineups, they all in one place. This is the content that can't be replaced. Speaking of place, first is the option. Win is the goal and I do it real often. Tournament entries, I already bought them. I bury the field, that's the nail in the coffin. Checking my watch, checking my clock. Grind is the time, I ain't never gonna stop. Digital, analog, never gonna stop. You ain't never gonna stop, I ain't never gonna stop. Checking my watch, checking at my clock. Grind is the time, I ain't never gonna stop. Digital, analog, never gonna stop. You ain't never gonna stop, I ain't never gonna stop, cause it's grind time.